Welcome, Lee here from Play Guitar Academy with another Why They Work video. Today, I will show beginners how to make super easy 3-note chords and use them across a 12-bar blues. These 3-note chords are easily remembered and they sound much more interesting than standard chords that everybody else is using. But before we get started, if you struggle with chords that click or they buzz or you have muted strings, none of these chords are going to sound great. If you click below to download my free guide to clear sounding chords, I will help you make all the adjustments you need to clear up all of the basic chords. Okay, let's take a look at these chords. Today I'm playing in the key of A blues and I'm using these basic chords as a starting point. A7, D7, and E7. How do we normally learn chords? Well, usually we get a sheet from the internet or maybe a book and it shows this big, huge chord that goes all the way across the strings. And the truth is, we don't have to play all of those notes. Sometimes there's certain notes that you can leave out. And other times, if you're playing in an ensemble, if you have a backing track or a bass player or a piano player, they may be taking care of some of the notes in those chords. So you can play chords across a group instead of having to do every single note. So let's figure out what are the notes in these chords. In the A7th chord, we have an A C sharp, an E, and a G. Those are the 4 notes in an A7. A, C sharp, E, and G. Our next chord is a D7. And in our D7, we have a D, F sharp, A, and C. And then finally in our E7, we have an E, G sharp, B, and D. So if there's only 4 notes in these chords, why do the ones that we play have more than 4 notes? We have the luxury of having doubled notes with the guitar. We can play 2 of the same notes, maybe in different octaves, as we play these chords, but they really only have or only need 4 notes. 7th chords have 4 notes, triads have 3 notes. It's very easy, but we can carve these chords down to something a little bit more manageable. You can leave out notes. Did you know that? Commonly, the note that gets left out the first is the 5th of the chord. It's kind of a thickening agent. It's a filler. It doesn't tell you whether the chord's major or minor. It doesn't tell you whether it's a 7th chord. It's just kind of meat and potatoes in the chord. So that's the first one that you'll see removed a lot, the 5th of the chord, but also the root note can be removed from the chord, especially if you have a bass player playing or a piano player who's already playing that root note. A lot of these chords, especially in jazz chords, the root note gets taken out pretty quickly. So to get these cool 3-note voicings we're going to look at today, we can combine different notes and we can leave out different chord tones. So here in our first set of chords, we're going to be using this triangle shape. So take a look here. Down here, we're going to be playing an A7th chord. I'm going to put my second finger on the A at the 5th fret. Now I'm going to take my first finger and play the 4th fret on the A string. That's a C sharp. So if you remember, this is the root and that was the 3rd. C sharp is the 3rd. The next note that we're going to play is this G here on the 5th fret of the D string. So with these 3 notes, we have the root, the major 3rd, and the flat 7th. What's the note that's missing? The 5th. But we could have picked and choose from any of the notes. As long as we have a few of them in there, we're going to be doing pretty good here. So we're going to play this as the 1 chord in a blues. Let's shift over. I'm going to take the same shape, this triangle shape, and move it over a set of strings. Now, my first finger is on the 4th fret of the D string. My second finger is on the 5th fret of the A string. And then tucked underneath, my 3rd finger is on the 5th fret of the G string. These are the notes of a D7 chord. We have D, that's the 1. We have F sharp, that's the 3rd. And then we have C, which is the flat 7th. In this one again, we're missing the 5th. And I'm not missing it at all. It sounds great. Now let's take a look. We're going to take this triangle shape and we're going to slide it up 2 frets. Now we're up here with an E note as the low one. Now my second finger is on the A string at the 7th fret now. That's an E. My first finger is on the 6th fret of the D string, and that is our G sharp. And then my 3rd finger is tucked underneath, and it is on the 7th fret of the G string. That's my D. So that's my flat 7th. So all 3 of these chords are voiced the same way. Root, major 3rd, and flat 7th, missing the 5th. So let's take a look at this second set of chords. These are going to be based on the A7 shape. So we're going to go down here in open position. Let's take our first finger and put it across the G string and the B string at the second fret. And then you can use either your second finger or third finger on the third fret of the high E string. I like the third finger. It's just a little more comfortable for me. And these three notes, if you notice, if you've ever learned the Stevie Ray Vaughan A7 chord here, the Texas Blues sounding one, this is the top three notes of that. We have an A C sharp, and a G. Look at that. The same idea from before. We have the root, the major third, and the flat seventh, leaving out the fifth. Now this is an easy shape. It's that little bar and then one note ahead of it. You've probably played this before as well too. But when we move to the next chord, so we can keep this all in the same area, I'm going to find a D7 shape that's very close by, and it's going to look pretty familiar. Here it is. So now we have our triangle shape, but this time it's up here on the high string. So the voicing is going to be a little bit different. Let's take a look at the notes that we have. On the second fret of the G string, we have an A note. So right away, this is different than the other one. This has got the fifth of that chord on the bottom. D, F sharp, A, and C. This is the fifth, the A. And then we have a C note here. So this is the flat seventh. So we have fifth, flat seventh, and then we have F sharp on the top. That's the major third. This one's leaving out the root. Now, if we played the open D string here, we would get all four notes that we need to have a complete chord. But usually, the bass player is probably going to get the root, or the backing track's going to get the root for you. So it's going to sound pretty nice. So just with three notes, there's my four chord. We started on A, and then D. A7, D7. Back to A7. Now, our last chord, we're going to do very similar to what we did before. We're going to take our four chord, the D7 shape, and slide it up 2 frets. This is going to give us an E7 shape. And let's take a look at the notes here. We have a B note on the G string, 4th fret. That's the fifth. We have a D note, that's the flat 7th. That's on the B string at the 3rd fret. And then on the high string, we have our G sharp. That's our major third. That's the third for this chord. So no root again for this one. So we're leaving out the root for these, and then we're leaving out the fifth for the very first one. So finally, in our last set of chords, what if you wanted to have a chord that was up a little bit higher? Maybe you didn't want something that was down low or even really low like the first one. You wanted something that cut through really, really well. So in the key of A, we're going to take one of these familiar shapes. Again, this is the triangle shape, but we're going to play it up here at the 8th fret. Now, this is very interesting. Let's take a look at these notes. So this note here is our E. So in the key of A, that's the 5th. Right away, that's different than the other triangle shaped chord. Then we have our G note on the B string at the 8th fret. That's our flat 7th. And then we have our C sharp on the top. That's our major 3rd. So we're missing the A for this chord shape, right? Now, if you played the A at the 7th fret and played a 4-note chord, that's where this voicing comes from. These three are the top 3 notes of that chord. But here's our A7. Now to go to the D7, something that's close by, we're going to take the other shape that we've learned. We're going to bar, just like the A7 that we had before, on the 7th fret. We're going to bar the G string. That's going to give us a D note. There's our root. That's going to give us an F sharp. That's our major 3rd. And then with our 3rd finger or 2nd finger up here on the top, that's going to give us our C, which is our flat 7th. So this one's missing the 5th again here too. Remove the 5th, and we have a nice, sharp 3-note D7 chord up high. And we're going to do the same thing to this one that we did in the last exercise. We're going to take that 4 chord and slide it up 2 frets. So now we're getting an E7 chord. This has got my E, my G sharp, and my D. It's just missing the 5th, which is a B. Thanks for playing along today, and thanks for learning these cool 3-note voicing blues chords. Also, thanks to all of our Academy members over at PlayGuitarAcademy.com. They are tearing into the tab and the files from this lesson right now. Please don't forget to download my free guide to clear sounding chords. This is a good one. This helps you make all of the little adjustments to your thumb and arm positions to make all of your chords sound the way you want them to. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments. Have a great practice. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.